This is the Heavyist podcast. Let's go!
Hello. Welcome to the Riffles. Welcome to the new episode of Riffles.
Nino. What the hell are you doing?
It might be the Riff Police. Maybe the Riff Police is a great section. We might have to do down the line.
Quick, make a note. Copyright. Riff Police.
Riff
Copyright
Police.
Heavyist podcast. We're definitely going to have to use that.
Oh no. Having a minor lighting issue. My girlfriend is Jolene, my life partner, the one I love. Sounds so frivolent, doesn't it?
Hetero life partner.
My life partner, she's got my light in the back of the car because I incredibly slovenly and haven't unpacked since me and Gary went to a festival last week.
Still in there. Open the blinds. Sod it. Give it a go. See what happens. That looks much better.
It just doesn't look all nice. I like it to look all nice like it has been. And, you know, sometimes, I mean, I think that Riff Police bit was, you know, fantastic. So it gave us that.
It was absolutely worth it, mate. Absolutely worth it. How you doing?
Gary.
You good?
Oh, it's actually not the Riff Police. Just in case you were worried for a minute there. It's the Heavyist podcast, weekly worship at the altar of radness. Me and Gary did a fair share of worshipping last week, did we not, Gary?
We worshipped pretty hard last week, mate. Went and looked at a whole weekend full of riffs.
Oh, we looked at so many riffs. We looked at so many blast beats. We had such a bloody good time at
it was
Fortress
fantastic.
Festival. If there's a world in which sort of a multiverse maybe that exists where you haven't watched that and you've sort of skipped it 1 week, if you're an audio listener that is sort of purely only sort of taking media through your ears, like if you're that monkey and like instead of that one or whatever, like
if you're like Tony
enough.
who told us that he liked to listen to the podcast in the bath.
Mate, I love a good podcast in the bath.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have a bath, so I couldn't really do it even if I wanted to.
I have a bit of a Friday ritual where I have a nice glass, like when work's finished. You know, one of them like little bottles that you get of wine.
Yeah, I'm aware. The
Have a little one of them. Put Kill Tony on in the bath. Have a great time.
You do that every Friday.
Minutes. Not every Friday, but quite often. As a treat.
Who can be asked to have a bath once a week? That's mental. Like, just have a shower. It takes like 2 minutes.
Loads of baths.
I just find that weird. Do you have to have a shower after you've had a bath? Because you don't really get clean in the bath, do you?
Yeah, you do, Gary.
It's like a ball soup, isn't it? The bath. You're not getting clean. You're just stewing in your own filth.
Well, only if such filth is present. If you keep it up, maintain a regular, you know. I'm not going in there like Stig of the dump, muck running all down me.
It's like what you're suggesting is like sitting in the bath is purely a leisure activity because you're not doing it to get clean. But is it though? It's not though, is it? There's not.
And you wash your hair in there, Gary.
That's weird. I don't have any hair, so that's not an issue for me. But that's weird. Washing your hair in the same water that your balls are in that's just gross, isn't it? That's why they invented showers.
Gross.
The shower was the improvement on the bath. Like, I feel like you'd be like having a penny farthing instead of a regular mountain bike. Like, I don't understand. I've never understood the appeal of a bath. I've never. I think since I haven't been a kid, I think I've probably had 2 baths, and both times I was just like, why am I here? What am I doing?
You're promoting very peculiar concepts like putting tomato ketchup on crisps, so you can't even get behind the notion of a bath.
Tomato ketchup on crisps was voted to be cool. I just want to point that out. I did a poll, and it beat My opinion beat yours,
It beat
75%
not
to
cool.
25%.
Or perhaps there was some sort of, maybe there was some sort
And I
of
didn't
bias
vote
in
myself.
the vernacular. I think there was bias in the vernacular. I think that's what I would vote.
No, there definitely wasn't. I made sure it was unbiased and scientific and objective. I did GCSE chemistry. I know how to do it. I know how to conduct an unbiased experiment.
You bloody well better, Gary, because I refuse to believe it. No, there's nothing wrong with a nice bath. I've got one of them little bath caddies, and I put my tablet on, get a couple of YouTube videos going, mate. It's an absolute blinder.
I feel like everything that you do in the bath, you could just do like in an armchair, and you'd be more comfortable. Like, because a bath isn't a comfortable place.
No, get all lathered up. A lot of
I don't think we're going to
business.
see eye to eye on this one. So I just don't get the baths. I don't get them.
Nah.
We see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we found our breaking point finally.
To be fair,
I don't think it's going to damage our friendship.
Two people often don't agree on as many concepts and ideals as you and I, so it's only right for us to stumble upon a crack in our relationship every now and then. It would be inhuman to assume that we wouldn't do that.
I think it makes our friendship stronger, actually.
Yeah, acknowledging the cracks.
Acknowledging that the cracks exist and being okay with them. Yeah, definitely.
Stepping over them, not chucking each other down them.
Jesus Christ.
Closing them up.
Me and Nicola have been a bit addicted to Married at First Sight. And me and you are currently talking like we're a couple on the couch when they do the commitment ceremony. We should probably, we should probably assess how close we are, and maybe sometimes it does actually make Nicola uncomfortable how close we are. She's like, "Oh, who's texting you? Is it your girlfriend Sunny?" Like, it might be.
Maybe.
Oh dear.
No, you got the unexamined life isn't worth living, Gary. So,
absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Anyway, before we got completely sidetracked, we were talking about our lovely Fortress Festival vlog that we did.
Yes.
And how everyone seemed to really like it, which I was really pleased with, because I was a bit like, I mean, I talked about it in the video, right? I was like, how am I going to get over feeling so uncomfortable about just videoing myself living my life? And it turned out that people really liked it. So thank you everyone who's given us some nice positive feedback. It's been really cool. I think it makes me feel like we're more YouTuber than we were before now, which is exciting.
I think we might be able to officially say that we're sort of on the road to YouTube.
On the road to
officially,
a YouTuber.
We've done
like and subscribe.
That's actually one thing that we need to do, right? And
definitely.
we've never been very good at promoting ourselves ever. Generally, like every show we should be saying up front, go give us a review, give us a like, give us a share. So if anybody is for any of you listening, if you haven't done any of those things in ages and you still love us, why don't you go down YouTube or something, press a button down there,
press the button.
Make sure you press the thumbs up one. That's the best
thumbs
one.
up. If you say subscribe, you ever notice that like the word lights up if you say subscribe? So subscribe, and hopefully
subscribe, please. Does it really? Does it just happen?
Yeah, I think it's just some clever piece of technology that when you say the word, the thing lights up. It's very exciting. Amazing. I hope if you have to program it yourself, I don't know how to, so that won't happen. But I'm just going to believe that it's like an automatic thing.
Yeah. Yeah, do some liking, subscribing, do any of those things if you'd like to. Also, why don't you come on down to the old Discord? There's
that'd be cool.
in there.
Come and join the
really
Discord.
Nice. Generally, thank you for all your lovely feedback on the YouTubing video.
Yeah,
we
it means
are
a lot.
very, very happy with how it went. And reflecting on it, Gary, what was your favourite bit of the old Fortress Fest, do you reckon?
Upon reflection, I think my favourite part of the festival was seeing Guy Area really in their element. Like you said on the video that they're like black metal is theirs for the taking, and I really believe they could be like the next Death Heaven. That band, they could be the next band that really sends shockwaves through that scene, because they're so it's amazing how they could be so charismatic when you can't see them, and their live performance is incredible. Their frontman, he's so energetic and just one of the most like enigmatic frontman that I've come across. Definitely the most enigmatic frontman that played that festival, and all they've got to do now really is just properly hone the tunes. And I feel like that last single, that was it, World Ablaze, they put out is a real sign of that happening. And I can't wait to see what their next release looks like. And I feel like we kind of witnessed a moment, just like them coming up and standing in front of a crowd full of people who are probably a lot more true cult than Guy Area might potentially usually perform in front of.
Yeah.
And going down like an absolute dream. I think that says it all, because that was something that was always a stumbling block for Death Heaven, wasn't it? It was like it being accepted by the actual black metal community rather than the kind of the hipster community where everyone welcomed him in with open arms. But yeah, what about you? What was your favourite thing?
Well, Gary, as we've already discussed, we agree on far too many items. So you've already mentioned my favourite.
I was actually about to say you need to think of a different favourite thing. No, you can have to say one. That's fine.
I really liked Black Braid. Black Braid was fantastic to watch. That was great. Those two experiences were so sort of close together as well. It was a very brilliant little sort of run we had there. Mortiferum, the newly pronounced,
the newly learnt how to pronounce band Mortiferum were excellent. Yeah, they were absolutely excellent.
A beautiful change of pace. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole bloody thing. And do you know what? Probably my favourite thing about it was that the drive didn't actually do me in like I thought it was going to. I thought I was going to be just a husk of a man like that. But smashed it, didn't we? We had a great time.
Killed it, mate. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, brilliant festival. Really strongly recommend people go out there, check it out, go to it next year. They've announced Agalloch as one of the headliners, which I believe is a really big deal. Like, I don't think they're a band who come to the UK very often, and they're quite they're very well revered in that scene. So I think that's something that a lot of people are very excited about. So yeah, go to Fortress Festival because it's a lot of fun. It's a great venue. The vibes are super high. It's wicked. I couldn't encourage it anymore. I couldn't be more positive.
I think if I encouraged it anymore, I might be sick.
Yeah. People would stop believing me and start thinking it was insincere and that we were being paid for it or something. We're not. We just really had a great time.
I might cough up an intestine or something. I don't know.
Oh, God, don't do that. Keep your intestines inside your body, mate, please.
Cannot recommend it enough. Gary, I was wondering actually where you would like to start this week, because classically we do lead with the larger album, but obviously one of the things that we simply must worship came out last week, so it sort of takes precedent.
I don't know though. I still think that Ulcerate should be the place to start because, we'll get into why, but
you don't need to tell me twice.
I think it needs to happen. Ulcerate, 3-piece progressive death black metal. They're quite hard to categorize. They come from Auckland in New Zealand. An entity, a dissonant black metal entity. A new album has potentially the gnarliest name ever. It's called Cutting the Throat of God. It's released on Friday the 14th of June through Deb and Morty. So this album's actually been on YouTube for the best part of 2 weeks now. So I reckon that quite a lot of people out there might have already listened to it. It's got some of the highest view counts of an album that's kind of been pre-released on YouTube that I've ever seen. I thought that it was put up there. I got the vibe that it was put up a week earlier, that really it probably should have been put up like Wednesday or so this week, but it's been viewed like 100,000 times.
Someone's just had a scheduling there.
Absolutely. I think
blazed when they put it up.
I honestly think that was what happened. I think they messed the dates up in the scheduling of it as a post, and it went up a week early. But honestly, turns out that was a great call, and everyone has been very, very hyped over it. And if you kind of have a little skim through the comments, there's a lot of hyperbole, but I think a lot of it is very well founded. And I do think someone put in there, forget album of the year, I think this is more like album of the century, like stuff along those kind of lines that you see in people talking about with this record. And I know that Stare Into Death and Be Still, which was their last record, was something that you held in very, very, very high regard. And I feel like it's almost that sound has kind of become Sonnycore. You know how we always talk about Every Time I Die knockoffs being Garycore? I think that like I lost count of how many people you had chats with about Numenorium when we were at Fortress Fest because you had the patch on your jacket. And I was like, everyone just wants to talk to Sonny about Numenorium this weekend because of that patch. And I kind of feel like this whole vibe has kind of really become like something that I kind of really like consider synonymous with you. So
Oh, that's nice.
tell me about how excited
Fuck-
you were about this record.
Phenomenally excited. When that first single hit me, I was over the bleeding moon. Like, not only are they incredibly spectacular in the sort of sonic sphere or sonic whatever you call it, but the visuals, right? I love getting a new Ulcerate video because it's so weird and brilliant and like sort of felt like an upside down version of like the Daredevil opening. It's all this sort of weird
Yeah.
bubbling mass and this flesh, and it just so perfectly represents the music. Like they're such a brilliant band, and I was over the moon with the singles. I just kept listening to them. Until we got that album, I was just like, it was the one album I real tunnel vision about like what I wanted to come into the inbox.
You did.
And I was just over the moon with it. I'm thoroughly satiated by all this, by all the ulcerating that's occurred, and I've been having a phenomenal time with it. It was been really looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man. And I'm a bit more selective about the kind of stuff in this sphere that I really like get excited about. But you know, I'm not an idiot. I understand that Ulcerate are probably one of the best bands that do this thing, and I say one of the best bands that do this thing, but they're in like a field of one, really, aren't they? They're like they're so special. Like, I just don't understand how, like, I mean, this album is so transportative. It's one of the most like transportative bodies of work we've ever come across, I think, as a podcast. Like, it's absolutely incredible, but I don't know how they make something that's like structurally or like musically quite dissonant and ugly and horrible, and they turn it into something that sounds so bloody beautiful. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. That I kind of can, you know, it's like, to me, it's like fire. You're like, fire is one of the most destructive things that exists, but it's also incredibly beautiful. Like, you can just get lost in a flame for hours if you've smoked enough weed. But it's like one of them. It's just, this is just, you kind of can't help but be drawn to it, but you know that at some point it's going to singe you. Like, it's incredible how they make that work. Like, it's just the subversion of dissonance into the point where it becomes melody is like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, you tell that to a music teacher, they give you detention. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense, but yet they make it work in one of the most incredible ways I've ever heard. Yeah,
man, it's intense, it's relentless, it shows off their absolute mastery of blending dissonance and intricate melodies. It's phenomenal. It's one of the truly sort of unique experiences you get, like, as a listener of music. There are certain bands that you just have to sort of, I feel like I can't do anything when I'm listening to an Ulcerate record. Like, apart from walk, I can walk with it, and I can kind of make sure the dog's not getting run over. But other than that, that's about it. Like, you just walk around, and like, I absolutely love finding myself just lost in the throes of it. It's so mesmerizing. It's such like a relentless maelstrom. And there are tracks in the album that are like less about sort of majesty and more about like dissonant battery, and then there's ones that are a bit more just ulcerating, right? Just being completely gorgeous. They have these melodies that they create. I feel like they glisten, like they're like, and they resolve like in a way that's nothing short of like magical. Like the melodies, it's ridiculous. I love this thing.
Yeah, I do too, man. Like, I've seen a lot of album of the year being thrown at it, and I can 100% understand why people would be saying that, even at this early stage before it's even actually officially released. Like, it's incredible. It's just, they just do this thing. Like, you know, I feel like they don't ever really play a chord. It's always like just completely built up of these like mesmerizing lead parts, and like conventionally heavy, it is not really. It's not really riffy or the kind of thing that we'd ever usually generally champion. Oh, I love a big riff, I love a big chunky bit. It's nothing. There's nothing like that. It's just so like all encompassing and like swirling. But like, you ever watch those videos on YouTube on the Drumeo channel where they basically give a drummer a song without the drum beat and go, how would you play this? And I feel like you could give Ulcerate's music to a drummer and they'd interpret the whole thing completely differently, and you'd end up with something that was kind of maybe a bit shoegazy or almost a bit like post-punky. But then you just throw Jamie St. Murat at this band and the world just expands, because that guy is like, he's not human. He's not human. How can somebody realistically be that good at playing the drums? Like, it's ridiculous.
His like neural pathways are just completely the opposite of like most individuals. Like the way that he attacks things are so out of the box and brilliant, and just so fucking captivating, mate.
Yeah, man. It's them, you know, there's the like a lot of the like the sort of like fast tremoloed lead parts, and the way he follows them with his drum beats, it's almost like he's playing the guitar on the drums, which is just, that's not what, like, drummers are there to keep a rhythm and a steady backbeat, but he doesn't. That's not how he sees his role in this band. He's not the backbeat. He's like almost like the lead guitarist of this band. And considering that a lot of the guitar parts are absolutely phenomenal at the same time, like, I don't even know how they managed to balance it and it not just become too much and become like cacophonous and difficult to listen to, because it never does. It's always really, it's really lush, and it's like the heaviest music you could play to a baby to send them off to sleep or something. Like, it's so like it's being like wrapped in a warm blanket. Like, it's insane how they make it work. There's every aspect of what makes Ulcerate incredible just feels like it shouldn't work at all.
Yep.
And it's just what makes them so special.
So, like, thinking of the last album and this album, like, what the sort of the differences are.
Yeah.
I think this album continues in the same style, absolutely, like Ulcerate gonna ulcerate, but like, I feel that there's a real uptake in hooks here. Like, there's a lot more leads and there's like a real focus on hooks, and like the way that they sort of manage to weave this sort of incomprehensible ball of snakes into these memorable hooks it's just incredible, man. Like Cut in the Throat of God, like that track, it feels like everything is bursting. It's commanding, it's glorious, it's suffocating in its excellence. There's that sort of like chompy sweet pick in the middle that just gets me going. It's brilliant. Like, I listened to this twice on the bounce yesterday, and I was basically a human puddle after it. I was just like a coagulated mass. I looked like something from The Thing. Like, it's so cool. Like, what I love about Ulcerate is that it feels so insular, right? But it also just feels so expansive, which is kind of like a paradox. Like, how it makes you, it hits so hard, but it weaves these intense dissonant chaos with hooks, and the hooks stick with you. Like, those two ideas generally don't happen at the same time. Like an Imperial Triumphant, for example. I think that's sort of a band maybe you have to talk about when you're sort of trying to contextualize them in the landscape of sort of other bands that provide a similar experience, where it's obtuse and bewildering, but when you come away from an Imperial Triumphant record and you necessarily don't have these sort of footholds and these pinpoints, you don't really, like, apart from maybe like vocal beats, like there were, like, I remember, like, just like City Swine, like, you know, that right going over, but like, other than that, you're just like, wow, that was bananas, my head just exploded. But this, you come away and you've just got the hooks in your head, those leads, like, what they do is unreal. Like, it's searing, it's sort of impossible to eject yourself from at any moment. You basically turn it on and it turns itself off. You don't turn it off.
It goes when it says it's going to go and not a minute
Yeah.
before, because it is quite a long album, isn't it? 'Cause it's like an hour runtime, and every track is sort of clocks in somewhere between 7 and 9 minutes, but they use every single solitary second of that to do something important. And so you never, like, you get to the end and you wish there was more of it. You wish it was going to keep going. Although, having said that, the title track at the end does have a really like perfect way that it ends, where you just get that one last lyric where he literally says the title of the album and the title of that track, and it just kind of really puts a lovely full stop on it. But maybe you want a bit more squeezed into the middle to maybe make it like 2.5 hours long. Fuck it, I don't care. Let's make it happen. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like there's some, like, for example, To Flow Through the Ashen Hearts, the opening track, has a bit more of a slow burn to it than I was expecting. Like, it has,
that works in context of the album because it is the first track, right?
Absolutely, and it really draws you in. And then when you get to The Dawn Is Hollow, that comes at you much more abruptly, and it's much more confrontational and in your face. And it's really, like, it's really perfectly shaped. Like, the album almost has like a bell curve to it, where it kind of eases you into this like real big crescendo of heaviness at the middle, and then you kind of slopes you back away again. Like, it's the way that it's put together is absolutely impeccable. Like, they've obviously spent a lot of time. It feels like maybe they might have written the album from the inside out rather than start to finish or something. Like, it's incredible. There's so many like cool things. Like, there's that bit in Further Opening the Wound where they chuck in a D beat, which is something I don't think I've ever come across in an Ulcerate song. That's really cool. And the other thing that, like, to See Death Just Once, which I think was the first single, is that right? I think that was the first song that they put out. Has this bit around the three.
To Flow Through Ashen Hearts.
Maybe. I think To See Death Just Once was one of the singles, but there's a point around the 3-minute mark where it almost sounds like Iron Maiden, but like if someone snuck into Iron Maiden's cupboard and fucked around with all their guitar tunings to make them sound really dissonant. But there's this like this sort of classic riffery that they kind of drift into for, it's kind of gone in a flash as a lot of these things kind of are with this band. But you just catch these little flickers of things. You're like, oh my God, what was that? That was amazing. It's almost like, I don't know, driving at 100 miles an hour down the strip in Las Vegas and be like, wow, I know that. Wow, what's that? Wow, look at that. Like, it's just it's the incredible, like, blinking you miss it moment. But the beauty of it is you can just put it on again and you get to know where these points are that are just incredible. And you find more and you find more. And it's just, the whole thing just like unveils itself to you. And I just can't wait for people to be able to, like, not just have to listen to it through a YouTube link, but be able to like download it to their phones through their music streaming service of choice, and like you say, go out for a walk or go driving and have it on in the car and just kind of just let it sort of flow through you like water. Like, that's what I feel like what this album is. It's like it just kind of flows through you and just kind of, it draws you in, but it also keeps itself to it's like beyond music almost, this record. Like, it's like a whole different entity or something. It's incredible. It is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, man, it's fantastic. It's like, it's like its own. It's like it is its own macrocosm. This album, it's like its own thing. Like, it's a living, breathing sort of space that is completely itself. And I couldn't ask for anything more for it. I think if we're like sort of gonna judge the sort of success of the album and like in as a successor to the previous record, like, I think they've absolutely done it. They've created something that is,
I would say so,
equally as beautiful, equally as technical, but more it's hookier. It sticks with you more. Like, those lead moments, they bleed into your subconscious. Like, it's awesome. It's such a total success, this record.
Yeah, I feel like the band are kind of keeping. They're not trying to keep you at arm's length from, like, actually really getting into the hooks of what's going on at this time. They're more welcoming, just a little bit more welcoming than they were on the last record of what's happening on this album. And like, for me, as someone who isn't, not completely like dyed in the wall in this kind of sound and this band, like, I'm absolutely in awe of this record. I think this record's absolutely incredible. Yeah. It's called Cutting the Throat of God. It's by Ulcerate. I'm sure we'll talk about it again before the year is out. It comes out on Friday, but you can listen to it now on YouTube if you so desire. But hold off and just enjoy it in the nature. That's what I would say.
Oh yeah, get in the nature.
Taking a bit of nature with it. Yeah. Okay. So as you were alluded to start with, there's another band that came out. They released an album last week that we want to talk about. They're called Candy. They're a 5-piece hardcore band. Their new album is called It's Inside You. So Candy are a band who kind of burst out onto the scene with the Candy Says EP, closely followed by Good to Feel, which is I think we talked about both of those things on the show back in the day. I remember when Good to Feel came out, it was like this just really awesome, gnarled up hardcore record, which tipped right over into power violence quite regularly. But everyone who was covering it was really focused on how much Candy were into like the Stone Roses and Oasis. And
yeah, it was ludicrous.
It was so weird, wasn't it?
It was such a focal area.
It was something that everyone was really honing in on in every bit of press that happened around that album. Everyone was like, oh, they're like a Manchester influenced hardcore band. I was like, I don't think they are. I mean, they might be wearing an Oasis t-shirt in the promo pic, but I don't think there's any of. And I don't know if that maybe like put me on edge a little bit, like put my guard up maybe a little bit, because I absolutely hate Oasis and anything that sounds like them. And
I love Oasis.
Yeah, I know you do, and I know I'm in the very, very small minority of people who don't like that band, but I just can't stand them. And I don't know. It just kind of put my back up a little bit. But then when they put out their next record, Heaven Is Here, which was absolutely brilliant. It's noisy, confrontational, horrible. But they really just dialed up into like industrial territory. They just went for this absolute full of hellish, like industrial hellscape vibe on that record. It was really, really confrontational and angry. It had this proper like throb that what's the old bloody Godflesh, like that really like menacing throb to what was going on. And the vibe of the band had just kind of completely changed, and it felt like they weren't even the same band from record to record. And now you come to It's Inside You, and I don't know, but I feel like they've become like the complete package. I feel like they've kind of taken the stuff, the power violence-y, hardcore-y stuff, the industrial stuff from the last two records, merged them together, and then just added an absolute fuck ton of bounce to it as well at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just think what they've got here, all I can think when I listen to it is like that sort of era of nu metal, like Coal Chamber, where there was like that nu metal sound, but it was really rough and ready and kind of buzzy and sort of frail. There was a lot of, because obviously nu metal was one of the biggest movements that has happened in heavy music in the last 30 years. A lot of it was very clean and very polished and very like clinically put together. But then there was like these sort of splinters of bands who were doing things that were a bit rougher, and I really hear a lot of that coming out of Candy on this latest record.
Yeah, I am over the moon with this thing, dude.
Yeah, it's cool as shit, isn't it? It's really, really cool.
Jamming it has been such a joy. It's been absolutely brilliant. Like I can't help but think this is like they've sort of done what Code Orange have done, but in a more likable way.
Yeah, they've done exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
It's funny, isn't it? I think they've got the balance just right. It never becomes sort of these weird moments, like the things that they inject to it. They still have their sort of their own beating heart, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's so stompy. It's such a hardcore album at its core, but these sort of textures wrap around it and take you somewhere else. Like to me, the album sounds like the movie RoboCop. Like, do you get what I mean when I say this album sounds like RoboCop?
Sounds like RoboCop. I know exactly what you mean. I know
it's a weird thing to say, and I'm glad that you understand it. Like,
it's so weird, but I absolutely get it.
it feels like RoboCop. This electronic texture that's over the top, but it's still so grounded. And there's these sort of like thrashy elements that are there as well, and they sort of almost has this sort of like retro futurism to it. Like I feel like that's sort of the vibe we're getting. We're not going to the future. We're like going back to like the gnarly 80s.
Yeah, what they thought the future
just
looked like in 1984.
Yeah. Like I'm absolutely loving it. I think the balance here is fantastic. The electronics and the hardcore are fantastic. And then you've got these like breakbeat elements and like thrash elements that are thrown in. All the textures come together just to create a really instantaneous and really just electric experience.
Yeah, man. Like, I think like, what I wrote down, imagine this, right? Candy as a headliner with main support from 156 Silence and Mouth Breather opening, right? Don't you feel like that would be like an incredible lineup of bands based on like where Candy have got to with this album? Like, maybe those three bands with Code Orange as the main headliner of Candy on like main support would just be perfect. And like, I just think that these guys have just found a way to make what they do a bit more direct. It's got a bit more of a stomp, a bit more of a two-steppy kind of nature to it, a bit more fist swing. Like there's still those power violency moments that happen in there where they get a bit more blasty and a bit lairier. But for the most part, I feel like they've kind of found just a little bit more accessible, which, sometimes that sounds negative, but it's not a negative thing. Like, we like to be extreme. We like to piss off the normies, but I just think that what Candy have done is they've just found a little, maybe it's that little new metal influence that they've thrown in there. Maybe it's some of the more like stuff. It almost kind of starts crossing over into cyber grind. Like there's almost like a kind of Blinding Equation or like a Zombie Shark kind of Technicolor synthy twinkle to quite a lot of things that happen on, especially like Love Like Snow, which I'm sure we'll come to. Like, mate, what an amazing track
we've come to it.
I mean, we're there, right? Love Like Snow. That song is absolutely amazing. Like, I think it's kind of like The Arms mixed with Show Me the Body, produced by Blind Equation. Like, there's just this, like, it's so catchy, and I love the way that they make it really, especially vocally, it's still really sort of aggro and hardcore and like barks, but the musical tapestry is really like, it's almost like an Armed song or something like that, isn't it? Like, it's just. And then there's that like that hook in the chorus, the connection never felt so right up, like the way that it kind of like swings out, and it almost has like hip hoppy kind of feel to it, which is where I get the sort of the Show Me the Body kind of vibe. Like that song, like I mean, it's an amazing album, but I really think that song is the proper tentpole moment in this record where they're just like, oh my god, Candy are like something special here.
Yeah, I love it. It's sort of like foggy, that track. It's sort of like foggy, but with this real cool melodic touch. And then there's this like this hardcore flow that's like stabbing out through the mist. It's so cool, man. Like that's a real triumph, that track.
Yeah, man.
And then you go from that, and then you get like Faith 91, where it's just like pure hardcore stomp, hitting hard, like hard as fuck, just. Absolutely brilliant.
And they go track
Dreams
for track
less
and
sweet.
Like
Dreams less sweet with the sirens, dude.
Yeah,
the sirens, and then like what sounds like a lift bell or something, like, and then it leads into this just like super hard riff, and then it ends with this like swelling solo and this like feedback over this sick ass breakdown.
Yeah, man.
It's so cool, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, Faith 91, I think, is a really big, like that almost gets on like Jesus piece kind of levels of like just gnarly aggro. And It's Inside You has that like drum and bass intro, which no one's ever going to be able to use a drum and bass intro in a song and not make people think of Eyeless by Slipknot. Unfortunately, like it's never going to happen again. But also, if you spend a bit of time looking at the front cover, it almost looks like a painting of Slipknot. It's got like Jim Root, Mick Thompson, and like Corey Taylor and the Clowns. So Sean Crahan in there as well, and then the famous Bunny, which is a member of Slipknot, which is probably the drummer now. Like I don't know, lose track. There's so many different drummers they've had, but like it's just got. It's like I feel like like album one Slipknot is probably another album where you kind of think like it's new metal, but it's not. It's more rough. It's more aggressive. It's got more like frayed edges to it, and like, I just really think that what Candy are doing here on this record is really interesting. And the only other band, like you say, that I can think of that are doing anything kind of similar are Code Orange, but Code Orange have got their eyes on like much bigger things, and as a result they're throwing in a lot more like grungy influences and stuff. Whereas if you don't want any of that, and you kind of want, like, imagine you were like, oh, I loved I Am King. That's kind of where I dropped off on Code Orange, and check this new Candy album out. Like, I know your mum told you not to take candy from strangers, but in this instance, it's okay because I'm not in the school playground. Although, actually, the internet, it might even be worse than the school playground at this point. But just accept this out. This Candy album is absolutely brilliant, and I don't know about you. I've been listening. You told me you were jamming it in the gym, and I can really imagine this being like a big, like, get your pump on at the gym kind of record.
I listened to it twice in the gym on Sunday morning, and it was fantastic. I was basically Arnie for about 20 minutes after it, and then I just sort of shrunk back into my schlubby self.
That's funny. That plays back into your 80s like action movie analogy as well, where you were basically the Terminator, where you were listening to it. Like,
yeah, mate. And then bits like Dancing to the Infinite beat, like that's like just pure like gaming bliss. That's just big gamer energy. That's sick. Hypercore. I love that is that what they're trying to call it? Like what they're doing? Because I'll back it if it is, because it mentions it earlier on in the album. Then they've got a track call it. So I guess if that's their little label that they've got, I'll back it.
I can see it because you kind of imagine, like, you're hearing a lot. Obviously, like, it's something that Bring Me the Horizon always pushing is like hyperpop as a concept of being thrown into rock music. But this is like hyperpop being thrown into like straight up hardcore. And just like, not necessarily like, oh, here's a hard, like, like a Omerta where they go like, here's a hardcore bit, here's a hyperpop bit. It's more like taking the hyperpop mentality and applying it to hardcore music. And I really think, hypercore as a concept definitely works. And and I can actually hear it. And honestly, until you just brought it up, I never even thought of that. But that's a very good point. Yeah, man. There's like a couple of little deviations as well. Like they get Terror Management where they give you a bit more of that like first album Power Violence kind of vibe, and then like Silent Collapse where it's almost got like a shit kicker, that punk, like old school 80s hardcore feel, and there's that like the strain, suppress, subdue, stress, that kind of that like gang chant that makes me think of like Black Flag or something. Like there's so much going on this record, but it has a really, really clear identity all the way through, which when a band are this varied is something that's hard to hang on to, and Candy have absolutely nailed it. Like, I'm really glad that this is the position, this is the sound that Candy have evolved into. It works absolutely brilliantly for them, and I really would like to see it pick up and people notice it more, and not just focus on that they like Oasis. Like, that's irrelevant, guys. Listen to the music; it's bloody sick.
I can't speak highly enough of this. This album rules. Hardcore is having a phenomenal year. Yeah, off the back of Knock Loose, I was like kind of prepared to be like, wow, nothing else is really going to touch that. Hardcore's a one-horse race
for 2024. Yeah,
but this album's phenomenal. Speed coming. Like, there's some major players in the hardcore game right now, and this album is phenomenal. Like, I'm over the moon. This is, this and Ulcerate are like absolutely going to be all over album of the year lists for sure.
Yeah, it's another fantastic week of releases. Yeah, it's Inside You by Candy. It came out last week, but we really, really strongly urge you to go and check it out if you haven't yet. Absolutely brilliant.
Hell
Get out of your before I get out your faces, you got any AOR this week, son? You got anything else? Any other riffness you want to chat about?
No, for me,
you've been on a riff cleanse, haven't you?
I've been on a riff cleanse. Putting together the video after the thing, I had a pure riff cleanse, and I broke that riff cleanse by reacquainting myself with the Candy album. And really, when it's come to listening to new riffs, I've just been ulcerating. I've been ulcerating wholeheartedly.
That's fair. There's something I just wanted to shout something out. So there's this band from Bristol called Moon Reaper. They put out an EP last week. It's called Black Sun Sorcery. I think I think they hit us up when we were going to Bloodstock because they were playing Bloodstock last year, but we didn't get a chance to catch him. And I did have a listen to it, and I was like, oh, this band are pretty cool. But then they hit us up and sent us their new EP. And I was absolutely fucking floored by the thing. It's amazing.
Hell
like their
yeah.
bio, everywhere you read, they refer to as like Blackened Doom, which I think is about 10% of what they do. Like there's so much going on with this band. It's like 4 tracks over 20 minutes, and it's just loaded. Incredible riffs, real variety and intricacy. They're not, they're not afraid to be like occult and evil, but they do also have no problem with leaning into like metalcore or deathcore and like hardcore and doing, diverting, and just they've just got a sound which has got like a really, really lovely blend of modern and more traditional vibes, and it works absolutely fantastically. They've got the vocalist Siren. She's got incredible range, and then I think also the guitarist Morgan does vocals as well, and they create this really cool, like dynamic, nimble back and forth between them. It kind of remind me of Sammy and Justine from Employed to Serve, the way that they work together, which it's funny because I also think they're a couple, or at least that's kind of what it looks like from their Instagrams, which I think is really cool. And like,
but people might think we're a couple if they listen to the podcast,
well, that's
so
very true. Yeah, that is very true. But I just always think, just as an aside, I always think it must be really cool to be in a band with your significant other. Because like, imagine like, sorry, I've not been around much this week, but I've got to go to band practice, so I'll see you later. But it must be nice to like, you're both going to band practice together. Or like, I don't have enough holiday to go on holiday because I've been touring too much. But actually we're going to use our holiday to go on tour together. It must be really cool. But anyway, I'm projecting a little bit there. Maybe I should stop. But like, there's just so many really awesome moments that happen on this Moonreef EP. Like the last breakdown in the first track, Beyond Obscurity, is absolutely savage. And then there's a riff in Necrochasm, which is proper shit kicker, which I was not ready for.
Nice.
And it was awesome. And I just
Necrochasm's a gun in Destiny.
Is it really?
Destiny. I wonder if they're Destiny players.
Yeah.
If you are Destiny players, hit me up.
I mean, Necrochasm sounds really, really hard. So it could just be
it's
something hard they came up with. But I think, I don't think anyone would just make that up. And I reckon they probably are Destiny players.
It probably is a thing outside of Destiny.
Yeah,
because
potentially.
It just sounds like one of them things. But maybe it's not. You never know.
No, I just wanted to put it out there because like I 100% think these guys are one to watch, and you'd be wise to invest your time in them. And let's not forget that we are the podcast that first told you to listen to Burner, Celestial Sanctuary, Mastiff, and Harriet. Yes, we were check the tapes. We were the first band to tell you to listen to Harriet before everybody else jumped on the bandwagon. So we've got a pretty good track record when it comes to cool underground UK bands. So check out Moonreaper. Their new EP it came out last week. It's bloody wicked.
Hell yeah! Now I'm done with my purely Ulcerate and Candy riff cleanse. I need to check it out.
Yeah, I really think you should give that EP a go, son. It's awesome, man. It's really, really cool.
Hell,
sick.
Yes, Gary. What
good show.
A lovely little podcast.
Delightful.
Lovely. Ulcerate. One of the greatest things. One of the greatest sort of.
Just one of the greatest things. That sentence ends there.
That exist. Yeah, that sums it up. Really cool. Great bands this week, Gary. I loved listening to everything. I'm just waffling for some sort of reason.
Going into some weird like waffle mode.
Gary, say something. Stop me.
Next week, I think we're potentially going to be joined by Zan from Morrow for a chat, and we are going to be talking about the new Foreign Hands album. And I'm going to be eating quite a lot of humble pie. So we'll see you then.
As will I. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to us, or indeed potentially looking right at us. My lighting situation is quite frustrating this week, and I assure you it will be nice and more lovely next week. Why don't you come on down to the old Discord? I said it earlier, but maybe you've sort of skipped around and you've just listened to the second half. But go and do some
really
liking.
Like the end where we just waffle about nothing for 10 minutes. It's their favourite part of the show.
Maybe the completely unprepared waffling moments are, in fact, where the beauty erupts from. Do some liking on the YouTube, why don't you? Go over to the old thing, do a subscribe, look at stuff. You could look at stuff, and if you've looked at it once, why don't you look at it twice or indeed thrice? Love you. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye.